ATRIUM, and thank you for coming
Where
today.
real estate could have been had for us.
We have
We're going to be with you.
a newcomer, relatively speaking, from Colorado. He just moved here to Eugene about 7, 8 months ago, yeah?
Something like that.
Yeah. So we have Ken AMDAHL, and to make sure he comes back, let's give him a nice welcome.
Circumstances led me to be here. So I just moved from Colorado 9 months ago. And so that's why, you know, if you don't know my name, that's probably why. Well, that and that I'm really, really obscure. So I'm going to do some of my own songs and some songs by other people. This is a song by a Canadian songwriter named David Francie. David drives a truck back and forth from Canada to the United States. And while he's driving, he writes songs. If you're not familiar with David, you should be. He's got a great voice, writes good songs. Anyway, this is one of his songs called Borderline. Morning, 20 below, with the sun coming up over Buffalo. I'll be turning for home with a load to go, coming back from the borderline. 3 hours passing through the customs gate, 3 hours out and I'm running late, trying to make a living, hauling that freight, coming back from the borderline. Well, I think of my baby fast asleep when the sun comes calling, the new day leaps from horizon to windshield to the locket where I keep her always. Down by the bridge by the broker's sign, hired on coffee and her for time, got my eye on the blue horizon line. Oh, the highway slithers like a golden snake between the darkened sky and the frozen lake. My heart's still hoping that you might wait, coming back from the borderline. Well, think of my baby fast asleep when the sun comes calling, a new day leaps from horizon to windshield to the light where I keep her always. Down by the bridge by the broker's sign, wired on coffee and hurt for time, got my eye on the blue horizon line. 4 in the morning, 20 below, with the sun coming up over Buffalo. I'm turning for home with a load to go, coming back from the borderline. 4 in the morning, 20 below, with the sun coming up over Buffalo. I'll be turning for home with a load to go, coming back from the borderline. Back there, we get, up in the mountains we get a lot of snow, but out in the plains, Denver, Boulder, Fort Collins, Colorado Springs, we get 14 inches of precipitation total per year. Not per weekend, you know, per year. So back there, when it rains, it's sort of a cause for celebration and maybe write a song, you know. So we moved here in December, and you guys must be celebrating all the time. Man, can only imagine how many songs you guys have written. Anyway, this is one I wrote back in Colorado, back when rain was a special thing. Well, it's drizzling tonight in the desert, softens a world of hard extremes. Not enough moisture for the weatherman to measure, evaporates like any other dream. Oh, it must have been the rain on my window, must have been the wind at my door. It must have been the rain tapping at my window pane. The pain is gone, there's nothing left anymore. But I met you hitchhiking from London, I saw your face at my door. Thought I heard your voice call my name out and say I love you. I thought I heard your voice, I could have sworn. Oh, but it must have been the rain on my window, must have been the wind at my door. It must have been the rain tapping at my window pane. The pain is gone, there's nothing left anymore. A late night TV talk show lights the bedroom, curtain drawn, I'm sitting here all alone. I thought I heard you ringing on my doorbell, I thought I heard you ringing on my phone. Oh, but it must have been the rain on my window, must have been the wind at my door. It must have been the rain tapping at my window pane. The pain is gone, there's nothing left anymore. Oh, late at night I start to feeling restless, and nothing sounds as lonely as the rain. Easy to invent love stories in my mind, listening to sounds I can't explain. Oh, it must have been the rain on my window, must have been the wind at my door. It must have been the rain tapping at my window pane. The pain is gone, there's nothing left. Well, it must have been the rain on my window, must have been the wind at my door. Must have been the rain tapping at my window pane. The pain is gone, there's nothing left anymore. Thank you. Back in the long time ago, probably early 70s, I was driving around in my red MG, banging on the gas pump to keep it running. I put those behind the seat. Anyway, I heard a song. Back then, I could learn songs really quick. I played a lot of guitar back then, and I could listen to a song and about here, I could hear the chords the first time through, and I could memorize maybe a verse of a song after one or two times. I heard the song that I kind of liked. I think it was Tony Joe South, and it was called "I Got a Thing About You." Does anybody remember that song? Ah, you're all too young. But, it was not on the radio very long, but I memorized one verse of it while I heard it, and then it never came on again. So that seemed like a waste. But then a couple of years ago, I thought, you know, this internet thing, they might have words to that song on there. And son of a gun, they did. And since I already knew one verse, I had really no choice but to learn the song. So this is my version of Tony Joe South's "Thing About You." I finally got the nerve and I'm gonna make my move. Don't you try to turn me off, 'cause it's gonna be hard to do. I got a thing about you, baby, ain't nothing I can do. I got a thing about you, baby, a thing about loving you. Ain't no two ways about it. Your love was meant for me. No, I can't live without it. It suits me to a T. Ooh, something about you, baby. I can't get you off my mind. No, I can't live without you, honey, 'cause I think about you all the time. I got a thing about you, baby. Ain't nothing I can do. I got a thing about you, baby. Thing about loving you. Just like a woman, when she knows she's got a man, she'll ring you out, she'll put you down in the palm of her hand. Then maybe she'll get to thinking that she puts you in a bind. She'll give you just a little love and it'll get you every time. I got a thing about you, baby, ain't nothing I can do. I got a thing about you, baby, a thing about loving you. I got a thing about you, baby, ain't nothing I can do. I got a thing about you, baby, a thing about loving you. My mother was from Kansas, and her brother, my Uncle Vince, was from Kansas, and I live in Colorado. Spent an awful lot of time driving across the Great Plains. And I assume you've all spent some time driving across the Great Plains and have noticed some similarities to the geography and the layout. Specifically in Kansas, you have got fields of corn or wheat stretching to the horizon. You can see the horizon in Kansas, and it's got wheat on it. And then these huge farms, and then way up close to the road, this little bitty white house, right? They must have 10,000 acres, and then they got this 600 square foot white house right up by the road where you can hear the traffic noise. And then behind that, there's this monstrous barn, okay? Yes, I can see some nods, you've been there. And I was thinking, what would it be like to grow up in that kind of environment? Be interesting, wouldn't it? And my Uncle Vince certainly did, and my mother certainly did. So I was daydreaming, driving down the road about living in that kind of a place. It wouldn't be bad. It'd be different, but wouldn't be bad. So I wrote this song, Big Red Barns. Big red barns, little white houses, chickens in the front, and the kids out back. Take me home to the blue sky country, smoke a little corn, sit by the railroad track. Big red barns, little white houses, chickens in the front, and the kids out back. Take me home to the blue sky country, smoke a little corn, sit by the railroad track. There's a place we go to watch the moon rise slow over fields and trees, dancing with the shadows and making music with the leaves. And all I want to do is wake up in the middle of the night with you. All I want to be is whatever you want to see when you wake up in the middle of the night with me. I'll sit on the porch, sing me one more song. You go on, I'll be right along. There's big red barns, little white houses, chickens in the front, and the kids out back. Take me home to the blue sky country, smoke a little corn, sit by the railroad track. When the highway song drifts on the evening breeze, seductively, people going places that I will never see. Will I rock my chair and the thunder rolls miles away harmlessly? I lock up your cares, let wonder grow right off on some old melody. Where the wind and the rain run free. Well, it reminds me of the storms we had back home. All the friends and family that I've known. And big red fingers and let wonder grow right off on some old melody. Wet wind and rain run free. It reminds me of the storms we had back home. All the friends and family that I've known. And big red barns, little white houses, chickens in front, and kids out back. Take me home to the blue sky country, smoke a little boats and ride a railroad track. Big red barns, little white houses, chickens in front, and the kids out back. Take me home to the blue sky country, smoke a little boats and ride the railroad track.
It's a very nice song. I know that country well.
Okay, since I have you here and you've been too embarrassed to leave yet, thank you for that, by the way. This is a song that I'm not allowed to do at home much because my kids have heard it and my wife has heard it, but you might not have heard it. So. You may not believe this, but years and years ago, I was a teenage folk singer. This was back in the big folk scare of the 1960s. My parents were in denial for a long time. But finally, they came to acceptance. And one Christmas, they decided they'd give me something I actually might want. So they went down to the Denver Folklore Center, talked to Harry Tuck, who's the proprietor. Said, we got us a teenage folk singer. What would he like? Now, Harry Tuck, he's a righteous man, honorable gentleman, but he's a good businessman. He sized the situation up very quickly. He had a middle-aged couple in front of him with hard green dollars. They had a teenage folk singer, and they had no clue. He said, wait right here, I'll be right back. Harry went in the back room, dug into the big cardboard box of albums, record albums, that said, abandon all hope of ever selling. Dug in there, dusted off a couple, brought them up front, said, this is what your kid wants. Now, one of those albums was by a guy named Fred Engelberg. Fred Engelberg was a longshoreman in New York, big burly guy, big black beard, looked like a biker. He wrote these sweet and kind of funny songs, kind of odd songs actually. One of his songs is called, sounds kind of like this, called Wish Ticka Ticka, subtitle Time Keeps Tick-Tocking Away. Another one is called Mufki Eye, not doing that one either. Another one was his big Christmas hit. Everybody talking about Jesus and Mary, ain't nobody talking about Joe. And this one is called Whiskers the Catfish. Now Fred has gone on to the great hootenanny in the sky, so I may well be the only person in the world that still sings Whiskers the Catfish. And you, my captive friends, are one of the very few audiences privileged to ever hear it. And you, my family back there, are privileged to hear it yet again. Whiskers the Catfish. Oh, Whiskers was a catfish in a stream in Mississippi, living free and easy, feeding on what he could get. Johnson brothers caught him. They didn't want to eat him, decided they would train and make old Whiskers their pet. They bought a bathtub, they filled it with muddy water. They'd swim him round for an hour, promenade him round for two. Soon they had him walking, boarding at the bunkhouse. You wouldn't believe the chores that old catfish could do. He'd do the dishes and sweep the floor, hang the clothes out on the line, learn to play poker on a Saturday night. Everything was going along fine. boys was going fishing. Whiskers, feeling lonely, was just hanging around. Decided to go with them. He lit into a whopper, but lost his balance, fell into the river and drowned. Think about it, it was a catfish. Oh, now the boys just ain't been the same since that day in August. To find another Whiskers is their greatest wish. The moral of this story is really kind of simple. You can lead a fish from water, but you can't let him fish. So I guess I'm going to do a folk song, old traditional folk song, called Shady Grove. But I had a banjo made of gold, every string that shined. The only song that it would play is I wish that gal was mine. Oh, Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I say. Hey, oh, Shady Grove, I'm bound to go away. Now, if I had no horse at all, you'd find me a-crawling up and down this mountain road, looking for my darling. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I say. Hey, oh, Shady Grove, I'm bound to go away. Peaches in the summertime, apples in the fall. If I can't have the one I love, have no one at all. Oh, Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I say. Hey, oh, Shady Grove, I'm bound to go away. I wish I had a needle and thread, fine as I could sew. I'd sew that gal to my coattail, round and round we'd go. Ah, Shady Grove, my little Shady Grove, I say. Hey, oh, Shady Grove, I'm bound to go. Cheeks as red as a blooming rose and eyes as deep as a brown. Oh, you're the darling of my heart, won't you stay till the sun goes down? Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I say. Hey, oh, Shady Grove, I'm bound to go. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I say. Hey, oh, Shady Grove, I'm bound to go. Man, the trees and the flowers and all the music, man, the stuff that's over in the the little festival that's going on right now. It's a bunch of stuff going on there. And one thing I like is that it surprised me, coming from Colorado where people are pretty friendly, is that people smile at you. They smile at you on the street. You smile at somebody, they smile back. Well, in Denver, that doesn't happen. And in fact, one of my sons came and visited Scott, and he said, "Dad, these people, they all smile at you." I said, "That's kind of disturbing." So, but we've adapted. We like it. So, back in Colorado years ago, I sang in a volunteer sectarian choir called the Last Note Singers. And it was called the Last Note Singers because it was a volunteer choir, and during the middle of a song, people would get a little uncertain about what their part was, and it got a little shaky from time to time. But when you got to that last note, and everybody knew their note, man, we belted out that last chord, so it became the name of the choir. And we sang for veterans' homes and nursing homes, and mostly at Christmas. Anybody who really had low standards, we would sing to pretty much, especially Christmas songs. And I was more of a bass back then than I am now, but I sang in the bass section. Since I was tall, I was in the last row, and one of the guys next to me was named Jim Donlin, who was also a bass and also tall. And, Jim was a really neat guy. He was on the board of directors of the Swallow Hill Music Association, the big folk music, second biggest folk music association in the country after Chicago. And every year he'd go back to the Walnut Valley Bluegrass Festival that my wife and I went in Winfield, Kansas, and we've been there probably every other year we went there. So if you've ever been in a volunteer choir, there's this odd thing that happens when you're rehearsing in between songs. You get to the end of a song, and the whole choir erupts in conversation. Have you ever noted? Yes, I see some heads nodding. Okay. And the director pounds on things and yells at you and wants to get your attention and tell you what you did wrong, and they don't care. We're just all talking and everything. So I was here on the bass, and over here's the tenors, and the sopranos are way over there. We had very little contact with the sopranos. But right to the next is, to the left of us, were the altos. 3 or 4 women down was this really sweet lady named Sally Fisk. And Sally had one of those nuclear smiles. You know, those smiles, you see it, it lights up, kind of like Obama's smile, you know, you see it, just, it's wonderful. And so those of us of a wisecracking persuasion, when the crowd erupted into conversation, we erupted into wisecracks, largely to see if we could get Sally to smile, okay? So then my friend Jim, that I stood next to, died. And I decided not to write him a song about the disease that got him or anything, but really about those intermissions at the rehearsals of the Last Note Singers. So the song's called Jim Donlin.
Quiet room, the autumn of each year, learned our parts and filled our hearts with music of good cheer. For friends who feel forgotten, some who lost their homes, for soldiers far with family near, feeling alone. Well, I never saw a church on Sunday morning, I guess that's fair. Nights in the choir room, I did my worship there. And some of the notes we sang were right, some had good intent, but the final chord rang loud and true when the music was all spent. And then the tenors joked, the sopranos all spoke, the altos did beguile. Me and Jim in the bass back row were just watching Sally smile, watching Sally smile, singing sweet and mild. Me and Jim in the bass back row, we're just watching Sally smile. Jim Donlin was a rambling lad. One day he had to go to the grand backstage where the music's made for the great celestial show. All the angels laid their harps down, picked up mandolins. Let's celebrate by the pearly gates. A bass finally got in, and I know I'll see him smiling at Winfield High Stage 3, or walking around Swallow Hill, spread in harmony. Oh, watching Sally smile and singing sweet and mild. Me and Jim in the bass back row, we're just watching Sally smile. Some folks are known by what they own, some by what they do, some keep the friends they keep, and Jim kept quite a few. But the ones you hold when the day grows old, you know by what they love. Good songs are pearls for pretty girls, and we'll never have enough. So take a sip and toast Tim's drip and beauty where we find it. Don't shed a tear, your friend's not here. We follow close behind you. And some of the notes we sang were right, some had good intent, but the final chord rang loud and true. When music was all spent, and then the tenors joked, the sopranos all spoke, the altos did beguile, me and Jim in the bass back row. Watching Sally smile, singing sweet and mild. Me and Jim in the bass back room, we just watching Sally smile. Sing, but except this one, I wrote this one just because a couple phrases came in my head, and I decided to write a song about it. And it's either called Preacher's Daughter or Holy Water. I write it down different times, but.
The water rolls from town to town.
quench your thirst completely. Repent the darkness of your thoughts, she says, the moonlight caught her. You will be what you believe, said the preacher's daughter, down by the holy water. Oh, down by the riverside, with fireflies aflutter, the moon bright on a stained glass lily, I was saved by the preacher's daughter. Down by the holy water, down by the holy water, ah, down by the holy water. Okay, I'm gonna. All right, I'll do this. This seems, I can't, I think you're kind of a folk, since I was advertised as folk, you probably like old traditional folk music. So here's a song you probably have never heard. My son, a couple years ago, gave me a song of a book of Irish songs that was published in 1808. And it had the words and it had the melody, but it had no chords, didn't have very many rests. Didn't have any instructions, like is this fast or slow or minor or major or whatever. So I had to kind of, and I'm not a very fast singer, but I learned the first song and kind of liked it. And so I've learned about I've learned, I guess, 15 of those songs. This particular one is called Sprig of Shillelagh. Shillelagh is a big walking stick that the Irish guys used, and they also would kind of sword fight with them playfully, but they wind up conking each other in the head and getting hurt too. And shillelaghs were actually made of oak, but at any rate, this song was very popular at the time. It's almost certain that Thomas Jefferson knew this song, played his fiddle to it, had his mockingbird whistle along. And it survived long enough that in the Civil War there was a song written with different words to the tune of A Sprig of Shillelagh, so 50 years later. Survived into long enough for a World War I song to be done to the tune of Sprig of Shillelagh. But the song itself faded from memory. It was never recorded, not on wax cylinder, not on anything. And so this little book is the only record of this song. It's kind of a cool song. And at some point I might release a bunch of these songs because I had a ball learning them. There's a bunch of phrases in it that won't make any sense to you, and I'm not going to take your time to just explain them, but they're cool. I'll tell you they're cool, so if there's something you don't understand, just say, yeah, okay. One that was interesting to me is they had a fair in Donnybrook. It was called the Donnybrook Fair. And it was very similar to the Oregon Country Fair, except there was drinking, and there was horse racing. But aside from that, there was dancing and music, and it went on for a week every year for 600 years, okay? And yet we've kind of forgotten there was a Donnybrook Fair, and that's where the word Donnybrook comes from, is because guys would get drunk and they'd be playing with their shillelaghs and they'd fight and whatever. Anyway, this is Sprig of Shillelagh. You're one of the very few audiences. Oh, love a neat Irishman. He loves all that's lovely, loves all that he can, with a sprig of shillelagh and the shamrocks of green. His heart is good-humoured, 'tis honest and sound, no malice or hatred is there to be found. He courts and he marries, he drinks and he fights, for love, all for love, for in that he delights, with a sprig of shillelagh and the shamrocks of green. Who's e'er had the luck to see Donnybrook Fair, an Irishman all in his glory is there, with a sprig of shillelagh and the shamrocks of green. His clothes spick and span new without e'er a speck, a neat Barcelona tied round his nape neck. He goes to a tent and he spends his half-crown, meets up with a friend and for love knocks him down, with a sprig of shillelagh and the shamrocks of green. As evening returning, as homeward he goes, his heart soft with whiskey, his head soft with blows, from sprig of shillelagh and the shamrocks of green. He meets pretty Sheila, who blushing a smile, cries, "Get ye gone, Pat," yet consents all the while to the priest whom they go. And 9 months after that, a fine baby cries, "How do you do, Father Pat?" with his sprig of shillelagh and his shamrocks of green. Bless the country, say I, that gave Patrick his birth. Bless the land of the oak and its neighbouring earth, where grows the shillelagh and the shamrocks of green. May the sons of the Thames, the Tweed and the Shannon, drub the French who dare plant at our confines our cannon, united and happy at loyalty's shrine. May the rose and the thistle long flourish and twine round a sprig of shillelagh and the shamrocks so green. I cut down the songs, and my songs, it turns out that there's something I wanted to say about almost all of them. Left out all the songs that don't need any introduction, so sorry about that. Years ago, I was driving through Arizona. It's pretty hot in Arizona. Listening to what we called a mixtape. Now, you guys are probably all too young to recall, but back in the day, we had cassette players in our cars, and some people maybe remember. And it was a revolutionary thing. You could take a song from one record album and put it on that tape, and then put a song from a whole different album on there and mix them, mixing albums, right? They called it a mixtape, and we could share them with each other, and they still do something similar. Anyway, I'm driving through Arizona listening to my mixtape, and this song comes on. It's "July You're a Woman" by Jon Stewart. Not the Jon Stewart from The Daily Show, but the Jon Stewart that was in Kingston Trio and then later was prominent in Robert Kennedy's campaign. The song is "July You're a Woman," and I'm sitting there listening to it, and I always liked the song. But driving through the desert, I thought, man, what's that song mean? July, you're a woman. Is it a metaphor saying July is like a woman, or some woman is like July, or whatever? I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, maybe, since the song is about driving down the road, maybe he was thinking, maybe he had a Playboy magazine on the seat next to him, and he's singing to Miss July, right? And then the song makes sense. So I'm kind of tickled at my own silliness for coming up with that, and in the distance, I see a dust devil swirling around off to the side of the road, comes closer to the road, swirls, picks up a bunch of litter from the side of the road, swirls it up, and it's going just exactly the right speed for that stuff to hover around. All this litter. And then it starts coming toward the road, right where I'm aiming, and I thought, oh no. But there was nothing to do. And so I intersected with this dust devil, stuff whapped all over my car, and this big old sheet of paper slapped right on my windshield and stuck. I'm driving down through Arizona going 75 miles an hour, and I can't see a thing because there's this big old piece of paper on front of my windshield. So all I could do was slow down. You could guess that the road was pretty straight, so I just kept going straight. Pulled off to the side of the road, took it off, and it was a centerfold. It was a center, I do not kid you. But before you think there's something mythical or mystical or magical happening, it was Miss March. It wasn't July. So anyway, the experience was so funny, so odd to me, that I was thinking about that song, coming up with that image, and then that would happen to me. In my day job is that I write books. And I was writing a novel called The Land of Debris and the Home of Alfredo, which is sort of self-explanatory. And I decided to use that incident in there. And I used some others, and I used some of the song lyrics from July You're a Woman. And of course, before I published it, I had to go get permission from different people. I had used a Jackson Browne lyric, try not to confuse who you are with what you do to survive. Remember that lyric, whatever it is? So I'd called Jackson Browne's manager. They wanted $500 for me to use those 2 lines in the song. So I surgically removed those lines from the book and inserted lines from one of my own songs and figured I just made $500 as a songwriter. But I had some lines from July You're a Woman, no idea how to contact the owner. So I called a friend of mine and said, do you know Jon Stewart's manager? He said, gave me a phone number. He said, I think this is the studio where he records. Try that, they can help you. So I called the studio. John Stewart answered the phone. And surprised the heck out of me. He apparently had a home recording studio, which was not common back then. I told him what I was up to, and he said, well, if you got the book there, why don't you read it to me? And so I read him the 2 pages that used his lyrics and in just a couple of lines. But, and he said, I would be honored to be in your book. No charge. Okay? So I became a fan of John Stewart right about then. I decided about the least I could do is learn one of his songs. So I learned July, Your Woman. Picture a centerfold, if you will, because that's what this song is certainly about. I can't hold it on the road when you're sitting right beside me and I'm drunk out of my mind, merely from the fact that you are here. Well, I have not been known as the saint of San Joaquin. I just as soon right now pull on over to the side of the road and show you what I mean. La 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 la. July, you're more than anyone I've ever known. And I can't hold my eyes on the white line out before me when your hand is on my collar and you're talking in my ear. Well, I have been around with a gypsy girl named Shannon, daughter of the devil. It is strange that I should mention that to you. I haven't thought of her in years. La 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 la. July, your woman, more than anyone I've ever known. I can't hold it on the road when you're sitting right beside me and I'm drunk out of my mind, merely from the fact you are here. Well, I have not been known as the saint of San Joaquin. I just as soon right now pull on over to the side of the road and show you what I mean. La 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 la. Ah, July, you're a woman more than anyone I've ever known. Ah, July, you're a woman more than anyone I've ever known. More than anyone I've known. July. Pull me off here at some point. Okay. I saw something that was sent out. It said, it mentioned Taj Mahal. So this is a song that I think Josh White actually wrote, and Taj Mahal had a good version of it, and if you happen to know it, any of it, feel free to sing along on the chorus. Or anywhere else that you know. Harmony's fine, I don't care. Well, champagne don't drive me crazy, cocaine that don't make me lazy, nobody's business but mine. Candy's dandy, liquor is quick, you can drink all the liquor down in Costa Rica, ain't nobody's business but your own. You drive big pink Cadillac to church on Sunday, hang around house all day with your old lady on Monday, ain't nobody's business but your own. I don't care what in the world you do, long as you do what you say you're going to, ain't nobody's me lazy. Ain't nobody's business but my own. Candy's dandy liquor is drink all the liquor that costs the liquor. Ain't nobody's business but your own. Well, you can run downtown in your birthday suit. I see coming out the back door of the Bank of America. Hold out. Ain't nobody's business but your own. When that cocaine's for horses, it ain't for men. The doctor say it kill me, but he won't say when. Ain't nobody's business but his own. Now I know you ladies, you real pretty ladies, you stepping down the town, just kind of hang around. You stand on the corner so the fellas can stare and say, ooh, Lord, ain't she sweet now? Champagne don't drive me crazy. Cocaine don't make me lazy. Ain't nobody's business but my own. Well, candy's daddy liquor is making you drink all the liquor that costs the liquor. Ain't nobody's business but your own. Now I know you ladies, you're real fine ladies, stepping downtown, just kind of hang around. You go stand on the corner so the fellas can stare and say, ooh, good God, Lord, ain't she sweet now? Champagne don't drive me crazy. Cocaine, that don't make me lazy. Ain't nobody's business but my own. Candy's dandy liquor is good. You can drink all the liquor that costs the liquor. Ain't nobody's business but your own. Said ain't nobody's business but your own. About 1 minute. Bryce, you're not going to get happy. He likes this one old folk song, and I'm not probably going to do it tonight. You know, there's songs that people do that they do the definitive version of. You know? I mean, the Rolling Stones did Satisfaction. You would be crazy to do Satisfaction because it's going to be worse, right? And there are other examples that none come to mind. Up the ladder to the roof. You know, the Nylons did the definitive version of that. Nobody's going to do a better version. And this is a song that's like that. You know, somebody did the definitive version of this. Anyone would be foolish to do it. But then sometimes you're sitting around and you just kind of start playing a song you've heard on the radio or you know a little bit, and then you kind of like playing it, and so you know it's foolish to do. But you do it anyway. So this is not going to be the definitive version. This is going to be an inferior version. But I think it's going to be the last song, because I think we're out of time, right about. So thank you so much for coming. I'm Ken AMDAHL. I didn't bring any paper or anything to get on a mailing list because I don't have any gigs. But if you want a business card, catch me afterwards and you can email me and we'll start an email list. Coming round the bend, I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. Well, I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging, and that train keeps on rolling on down the sand. Now, when I was a baby, my mama told me, son, always be good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. Now I hear the lonesome whistle, I hang my head and I cry. I bet they drink cocktails and smoke big cigars. Well, I know I'll get it coming. I know I can't be free. And then people keep on moving. That's what tortures me. Coming round the bend.